The breaking news just coming in, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had a telephonic conversation with Russian President Vladimir Putin today, where he shared insights from his recent visit to Ukraine. The Prime Minister also reportedly reiterated India's stance on the Russia-Ukraine war. Remember, the Prime Minister has said in the past and several times, which he reiterated in Ukraine as well, that this is not a time for war. So the Prime Minister dials the Russian President, discusses the situation in Ukraine and the war, and reiterates the call for peace in this call with Putin, and says committed to peaceful resolution. So this phone call coming just days after the Prime Minister's visit to Ukraine, the first and a historic visit by an Indian Prime Minister. The Prime Minister dialing Vladimir Putin and sharing his insights from the recent Ukraine visit and reiterating India's stance on the Russia-Ukraine war. So that is the big breaking news coming in right now. Just days after his visit to Ukraine, the Prime Minister and Vladimir Putin exchanged perspectives on the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Prime Minister Modi spoke with the Russian President and discussed bilateral ties, as well as his recent visit to Ukraine, where he met Zelensky, and the Prime Minister in fact posted on social media, spoke with President Putin today, discussed measures to further strengthen special and privileged strategic partnerships, exchanged perspectives on Russia-Ukraine conflict, and my insights from the recent visit to Ukraine, reiterated India's firm commitment to support an early, abiding and peaceful resolution of the conflict. Let's go across to Ghazali now for more. So Ghazali, a few days after his historic visit to Ukraine, the Prime Minister has this conversation with Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, certainly, and that shows that India has yet again emphasized the fact that it is working for peace, as the Prime Minister briefed Mr. Putin about his trip to Ukraine and what he had briefed Mr. Zelensky there, that India is there to talk about peace. And
no allegations against him, just out of foreign.
And the second big takeaway from this conversation is that as India was being criticized by the West for first going to Moscow and being very pro-Russia, this is something which the Indian government has yet again emphasized, that India has got its own foreign policies and priorities. It doesn't depend upon how West describes it or sort of receives it. So in a sense that Prime Minister met Mr. Zelensky, talked about peace and a peace plan. He also spoke to the other stakeholder, which is Russia's President, Mr. Putin. And very few leaders, and I would say perhaps in the global south, it is only Mr. Modi, the Indian Prime Minister, who has been able to speak for both the leaders, be it Mr. Zelensky and Mr. Putin, about the ongoing war in Europe, and also who is very boldly talking about establishing peace and bringing a halt to this war.